The Miis, Nintendo's lead mascots across the 2000s and 2010s, took over a huge chunk of gaming as we know it. These avatars have remained iconic and beloved across all that time, although it seems that recently they've been falling from the public eye. So join me as we look at one of the most important gaming franchises you can find. Hi everybody, I'm here in a changing room at a clothing store. I saw a makeover montage in a 2000s rom-com the other day and it motivated me to want to update my wardrobe from... I think I'm wearing clothes. I've had a bit of a soft spot for the Miis. The Miis are a self-insert of me. Me equals me as much as it equals the guy editing this part of the video. That's right, me editing this video. I see you editing me talking about the Miis. Anyway, let's start this thing. The Minius Maximi, better known as the Mii species, are interesting in concept. Whenever a console or hardware has a character creator, they usually get compared to the Miis, because, to be honest, most character creators fail to hit as hard as the Miis do for what they provide and what they represent. By the point they released, custom characters were nothing new. You had The Sims, Sport, hell, Nintendo was messing with Animal Crossing customization around this time. It was something they had been trying to do for at least a decade and failed like 6 times. It was pretty embarrassing. Now, when the Nintendo Wii releases on November 19th, 2006 in most of the world, and there's an attempt to make them once again, there is a simple system with neat little characters based on these Kokeshi dolls. They were cartoony, accessible, sleek, modern, and Nintendo. They had done it. They had made the perfect little character creator for casual Wii players to indulge and enjoy within all their favorite little games. In a sense, the life of a Mii is a predetermined one that can either be full of fun and glory or one of the most disturbing lives possible. Miis are humanoid. They are birthed from one of the many Mii Maker factories. The most well-known one being from the original Limbo Void. Before doing anything, they're at the mercy of the person behind the screen. Little 11-year-old Elliot might be making a replica of himself, maybe take the clone on a nice BMX race on Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games on the Nintendo 3DS, but we don't know yet. And the possibility that a Mii is not blessed with the rare privilege of being a replica of someone else. They will be malformed with whatever is necessary to recreate whatever horror pops up into the feeble little minds of the creator. Sometimes Miis will have their eyes and their hair, sometimes their nose is their chin, their mouth is their forehead. Whatever the final result happens to be, ends up being a burden among burdens, with little to no chance of getting an updated look, let alone one that fixes these problems that leave the poor Miis discombobulated. It's technically an ethical dilemma to create life for whimsy, but hey, here we are. You made a Mii and now it's here to probably stay, unless it's based on your ex or person you had a falling out with, because in those instances, we're gonna kill them, trash them, erase them from reality. They were never there. The first Mii game to launch was Wii Sports, and honestly, this is one of the best ways to raise the Miis and introduce them to the life they're gonna be indulging in. Miis are athletic, social, and in most cases, pretty driven toward whatever goals they have. But with them being blank slates, we don't really know what else they can do besides basic sports and mild celebrations. They'll jump around, they'll do a little nub hand dance, and everybody knows Miis are deathly afraid of bowling balls. That reminds me, by the way, we should probably talk about how the Miis don't really quite sorta at all have consistent limbs. Like outside of the faces and sometimes the height and weight of the Miis, they'll be consistent, but sometimes they have elbows, sometimes they float. Do they feel themselves contorting between games? This is a skill that they have. Look at the Mii Sports baseball, for example. When batting, the Miis have legs in order to produce a stronger swing. That's just how baseball works. But then when they're in the outfield, they don't have legs. They become little play school weevil creatures. Do their legs retract? How does that even work? This is a body horror thing that remains prominent in a lot of things the Miis do. They are now sent in the direction of physical activity, to be little friends who float around pleased by the world surrounding them as much as they are simply horrified. Already by this point, we have elites among the Miis. Not every Mii is created equally, not even by Nintendo. This is when we see the first of the most iconic Miis. Of course, you got the lead devs that'll remain prevalent Miis like Iwata, Miyamoto, Sakurai, Reggie. All those guys have Miis that are popular, but in addition, you also have what I can best describe as NPC Miis, the ones Nintendo deliberately made as automatic default CPU characters in a good number of their games. And you know, if you just have a Wii with a couple of Miis on it, you'd be seeing a lot of these guys. And personally, when I played on the Wii of someone else, the only Miis we had were usually of us. I was so used to these characters that they became part of the family to an extent. Well, one of my favorite things to do growing up was imagine what the Miis were like off the field, like who they were based off of, what they would do in their own time, because all of them are provided templates. They are the furthest you can get from considering something a character while still being a character. They've got to be based on something or some aspect of human imagination. Part of me thanks quirks like this for being responsible for my more creative mind. Another part of me feels like my parents should have been more concerned about my interests. I mean, I used to chew on little bits of sand because I like the crunch, and then I'd also pretend I was a carpet as an excuse to stare at ceilings. I really needed more friends growing up. Yeah, but this naming thing I did was a lot of fun. It was great. It was just a fun exercise. Let's try what some of the Miis Nintendo provides us with. Graphic design major, recently divorced accountant, head of the HOA, White Castle cashier worker, a genuinely kind neighbor who everyone asks for advice from, mailman who also collects stamps for fun, nutcracker, jet ski salesman. Don't know how to explain it, but this guy looks how degenerosity sounds. Sorry for the stray degenerosity, but holy forehead. And then you have a college student who always has a Stanley Cup with them, grandmother of 7, chemical engineer. As for the game, it is Wii Sports. Wii Sports is sports on the Wii. It was a launch title. We can move on to the next Mii thing. The greater Wii era saw the truest expansion of the Miis becoming more than avatars. They were our friends. They made their way onto the DS through the Japan-exclusive 2009 game Tomodachi collection, seeing the Miis being seen more as little creatures in their own cages, which I mean, they are just little guys in little guy jail. This isn't inaccurate. But then we had like Wii Music following them learning the arts. Then you had Wii Play, which is Wii Play. Why isn't the Tanks its own game yet? It was a mini game. It still outsold Horizon Zero Dawn. That's very funny. Throughout the life of the Wii, more of an effort was made to include the Miis as player characters or as custom options in a lot of games. Otherwise, they'd cameo briefly, like as a bobblehead in Metroid or a save icon in Mario Galaxy 2. Pokemon Ranch had them, Animal Crossing had them. Mario and Sonic invited them to the Olympics so even your uncle could do hurdles. They already did the Wii Sports baseball, so a lot of events in other games were nothing new. The funniest one to me has to be when they gained an interest in real estate via Fortune Street. So now this is just a greater skill the Mii populace has with them. That's badass. Good for them. I would trust a Mii with hosting my Airbnb. Some other dedicated games include Wii Party, hosted by the ever iconic Party Phil. This game's legacy is entirely held together by Beef Boss and Poofester, and Beef Boss is unironically one of the top 3 most iconic Miis ever. Not even wrong, just a fact. Then you got Wii Fit, almost acting like a method of fear-mongering through which the Miis learn the fears of not properly exercising, as some of them face obesity, therefore inspiring them to never stop going for the levels of professional athleticism in all capacities. And canonically, my Mii is faster than Sonic probably, maybe, I don't know, power scaling is dumb as shit. And of course, Wii Sports Resort, which introduces my favorite character of the greater Mii universe, Woohoo Island. Now, Woohoo Island is, to put it simply, classified as its own character by Miyamoto himself. It will return and remain prevalent as the primary utopia of the Miis in my mind, as it perfectly shows what life as a Mii is all about, as we see Miis mostly roam across islands unless specified otherwise. Yet during this point, we also saw a couple Miis that Nintendo made that gained prevalence. There was Tommy, some other unnamed ones, the defaults, but the one I remember the most is Matt, just being an obstacle in a good amount of these sports. He is a champion among the Miis. He is a warrior. We love Matt. Matt is a good guy. And just remember him and Woohoo Island as we make our way to 2011 through 2017, the 3DS and Wii U eras. Starting off, we have the introduction of the Mii Plaza, Streetpass, Spot Pass, all that. I'd argue this is the first major complication found in today's discussion, because in my eyes, the official start of the timeline is with the launch of the Wii. But from here, there's the introduction of ancient history via rescuing the Miis and Find Mii, a ruined timeline via the infection of Battleground Z, the futuristic environments of Mii Force, where you gotta fly through space and defeat the evil Gold Bone, which is like the most Nintendo-y Nintendo character I've ever seen. I guarantee you this got a spirit in Smash Ultimate. Really, I can just assume it's like all the inclusions in other games. You know, it's them being tasked to appear as possibly actors, but most of all avatars. This is more or less me looking at Streetpass as a collection of games or in-universe shows. Miis are known by tens of millions of people. They gotta know how to make a good show. When it comes to the Streetpass environments, I imagine this being closer to a social hub for the Miis to befriend, for the savages to start learning social skills and emotional intelligence. It's really beautiful seeing how far the Miis go to mingle as friends, to recognize they're being willed by the owners of respective Nintendo products, only hoping to walk next to someone else with a DS. I like Find Me. I thought it was fun spending my little 3DS coins on progressing here. I didn't really like the shield mechanic, and whoever decided the puzzle swap game should give you pieces you already have belongs in a volcano. This is the most extensive part of me life and legacy. I truly struggled to transform this into something that would make logical sense, and then I came back to the saddest realization of all. We are trying to make a coherent timeline out of video game avatars that can look like Peter Griffin. Nothing matters. It's just another hub for the Miis. They get included onto more games more consistently. And as you saw, they're doing whatever the hell they want. Sometimes they're ninjas, sometimes racing slot cars, sometimes fishing, sometimes gardening, sometimes exploring a spooky, scary, haunted mansion. Sometimes the Miis would be on Wall Street. We already know the Miis have real estate knowledge. It was only a matter of time before their knowledge of Roth IRAs came into canonical fruition. Does Matt from Wii Sports Resort have a 401k? This is necessary information. Meanwhile, on the Wii U, aka the prime example of why titles are important, because if this thing was called the Wii 2, the entire gaming industry would be in an entirely different spot. The Wii upgrade led to a Mii upgrade. A prime example of this comes from the game Nintendoland. It kinda indicated where the Mii shine best, being replicas, and at this point, honorary mentions by wearing the skins of those not fortunate enough to get their own games and original models. I genuinely love Nintendoland. I think a good amount of these games would be a delight in larger lobbies or updates. It's just that to an extent, a lot of them acted like seasoned salt on my wound. I played F-Zero a couple of times before this. I spent a lot of time in arcades. I didn't feel good seeing F-Zero only as a mini game and then 2 Mario Kart tracks. It's better than nothing, but it still hurts. This is also the closest we've gotten to a modern Game & Watch thing. Just watching potato people dance. So, you know, shout out to the 4 people who still care about Game & Watch outside of the fighting game. And the best games of this one were Luigi's Mansion and the Metroid ones. These are just their own things. I prefer these over the actual games. I wish there was more done here. I wish there was more to play with. I'm being dead serious. This Metroid campaign in Nintendoland is like one of the best Metroid experiences, period. Of course, just like the Wii, Miis show up game to game. A lot of sequels, some from other properties, sometimes being included through their own games, and a lot of which are more of the same. Wii Party U, Wii Fit U, Wii Sports Club. Was Nintendo learning the only reason Wii Sports was a success was because it came with console bundles? More of the same. Nintendo was pushing the Miis as hard as Mario. It represented the Wii U as a whole, feeling more like the Flanderization of everything that made the Wii special, trying to push this further, however that may be. And then the only good thing to come out of the Wii U Mii games has to be like Feed Me, and the videos made on it by We Like to Play. Bless up We Like to Play. I think about this channel tri-monthly. It wouldn't be a Mii video without talking about the partly unrelated Nintendo eShop. eShop was another vital location for the Miis, partly connecting to the Mii Plaza as much as it exists as its own thing. Dr. Kawashima Brain Training, Brain Age, Pictochat, just gonna drop Art Academy. None of them really prioritized Mii representation, but it was adjacent. It showed the general vibes of artwork and the intellectual capabilities of Nintendo and the Miis that we've seen before via some Wii Party minigames and Wii Music. They're capable of so much human level comprehension and art and beauty, if not more. Though there were some games closer to those in terms of Mii usage. You had Swap Note with Nikki, one of the most successful original Miis. To my knowledge, the first and only time a Mii has ascended from being only a Mii into their own original character design. The opposite has happened of this though. A few characters have official Miis connected to them. A couple come to mind, namely the celebrity ones, along with the Kid Icarus ones. This is the highest quality one I could find. This is supposed to be Palutena, but it looks like a bad Discord emote. Beyond that, there was the Badge Arcade, being a little hub to customize your 3DS, something that's no longer available. This should be free. Why isn't this free on all 3DSs now? I don't understand the thought process here. Rusty's Real Deal Baseball really caught my interest. There's this dog named Rusty. Ignore that he looks pretty different based on what country you're playing in. He has a family, and he's pretty terrible in all aspects of his life. He's kind of lazy, kind of passive, really running things on autopilot. The main gimmick of this game is that you can haggle the prices of the mini games he offers, which first off is such a cool concept for games and paywalls if they're necessary. Like in a world where this is more and more commonplace, why aren't there more fun gimmicky ways to reduce the real world prices of games or applications or DLC? This totally feels like something that should be more common. But I really only gotta bring this up for the fact that it shows the Miis are capable of doing good and acting right, of being a positive force in the lives of people who might not be Miis. By the end of this game, Rusty transforms into this entirely new person, and you are in specific thanked for this. Unless you hate this mechanic mechanic and entirely skipped it and bought everything at base price because you are weird and you just wanted to spend more money and play less game. And when that happens, you summon Pappy Van Poodle, who up until 2019 nobody cared about because, again, nobody was deliberately choosing to pay Nintendo more money for any reason. Why would you pay full price for these? And as noted, just like Mii Plaza, you would have to put some real money to get access to the remainder of these games, most of which I never played because I was too scared of the idea of asking my parents to use their credit card, so I would go to stores and use gift cards as my main way of paying. And I'm sure a lot of kids were in the same boat as me because the idea of having some sort of debit or credit card saved onto a 3DS is more horrifying to parents than the thought of there being an afterlife or not. And it doesn't matter, we're all gonna find out eventually. It sucks, but it's true. I hope there's something good waiting. I really try. This video is about Miis. Let's go back to the Miis. Can't forget about Miiverse. In general, the UI of the Wii U was extensive, introducing this hub called the Wara Wara Plaza with a ton of Miis, all encouraging you to go to their respective softwares. It makes you wonder who was responsible for creating the Miis found under settings. In short, Miiverse is Twitter for children. So Twitter. I spent enough time with the Miiverse, in part because of how big of a dumpster fire it was, along with just the kind of world that made its way here. Getting big on Miiverse had to be a feat, not only because the majority of users were just trying to see how far they could stretch moderation when under Nintendo's mighty hammer of rule, but at the same time you had to deal with the extremely limited resources per game and per post. You could only post images caught directly in the games. You could only draw using black and white. The most creative liberty came from the drawing apps or photo tools in some of the games. I could see you having fun with this, but in the end, there's not really an incentive to play. It was too limiting compared to other social medias at the time, so it became better to just see what sort of wacky shit you could get away with here. For the first proper time, individual players had the chance to have their Miis at the top, other than developer Miis, Nikki, all other official Miis. The top accounts mostly hovered around Mario Kart and especially Smash Bros through their video and photo tools. I can think of a couple artists who, to my knowledge, had a pretty sizable growth here thanks to their time making comics and fun little posts using Smash Bros and working from there. Which reminds me, truthfully, from this point on, I feel like the Miis have their fate cemented as characters someone older than you will recognize, but you only know them from Smash Bros. I hate to say it, but I'm not wrong, and it's perfectly fine. It's gonna be fine when it becomes more and more normalized. I mean, a decent amount of people who know what a Falco is hasn't even ever thought about what a Star Fox is. A sizable chunk of the Smash Bros roster are known for being in Smash Bros compared to their own franchise, and that's not a bad thing. Of course, we have that Miiverse stage added post-launch, which I think was meant to be a stage you take seriously, but all I ever did was laugh at anything funny that might show up in them. Fellas, if you've ever seen yourself near a modern Smash Bros hype cycle, you know about the horrors of Mii costumes getting revealed. For minutes on end, you would see your favorite characters not becoming playable, but instead forced to be a Mii, forced to be a costume for one of these freaks. It's done in such a way that seeing your most wanted represented as a Mii genuinely felt insulting to an extent. Like the idea of, oh, you can still fight as Dante, that's cute, but it hurts. In actuality, there's like, I think 2 or 3 costumes that I think are acceptable, namely Sans, Cuphead, and then Vault Boy. Vault Boy, I can take or leave. The rest feel like a slap in the face and feel like getting a consolation prize out of guilt. I was already disappointed to see Bomberman become an assist trophy. I don't think a Mii costume is gonna make it any better. Why is there a Skyrim Mii costume? Why would you even indulge in asking for permission over that? Who was the person that went to bed at night and wished upon a shooting star going, please, please let there be an Assassin's Creed Mii sword fighter costume in Smash Brothers? Yeah. I remember going to a Toys R Us on its Everything Must Go sale before shutting down. I remember having enough money to buy like a bunch of amiibo that were on the shelf, 70% off, because like, fellas, I loved me some amiibo. Here's my old collection. I kept that shit rolling. This kept the woman out of my house growing up, scaring them away with this. You know, nobody can handle the might of Ike from Fire Emblem on a shelf. This was a good call. I got Pit, I got Ness. I didn't buy the Mii pack at Toys R Us. Why would you spend more than $5 on 3 creatures, one who works in insurance, one that is a hear me out, and one that is a horseback rider? I'm not going to specify which is which, but there is a correct answer. There's a Mii named Ji-hoon, and I hate him. He is a little bastard. He skinned King K. Rool and smiled as I went to bed disappointed, knowing King K. Rool wasn't going to be in Smash Wii U. And then like 3 years later in 2018, when my friend spoiled K. Rool's actual inclusion in the next game because they thought it would be funny, I still don't forgive you for that, by the way. I know you're watching watching this, you have yet to apologize for that K. Rool reveal. You knew he was one of my most wanted. Why would you ruin that for me? It would only get worse in Ultimate, at least with assist trophies that they weren't getting added post-launch. Mii costumes could strike at any moment and damn it! The inclusion of Sans as a Mii costume is unironically one of the most important moments in Mii history. It indicated that Miis weren't being celebrated for the unique IP they were, and instead how you could cover them as templates. Nobody was excited for the showman, only the show. On a more optimistic end, our favorite character, Woohoo Island, had a good run across this era. It got not one, but 2 stages in Smash Bros, 2 tracks in Mario Kart 7, along with a battle track. Pilot Wings gave it top billing. What a run. Top 10 Nintendo characters of all time. I don't even play about that. That's just entirely true. Woohoo Island sitting nice and pretty at number 7. But to me, the shining star in my mind, in my heart, has to be 3DS Tomodachi Life. Just like the Japan-only DS game, this one follows the Miis living on a little island. They interact, they do fun little games, they sing and dance. I wouldn't know. All my experience with this one comes from Vinesauce video compilations as background noise. In terms of story though, I mean, assuming that every event has occurred at least once, I could see this acting like a home for the Miis, less consistently in games or even retired. Maybe what Miis aren't doing when they aren't burdened on other games or other responsibilities. For some reason, I keep getting these lingering feelings of discomfort knowing what being a Mii has to be like. I can only imagine what happens when we don't see them, and really just hope nothing bad is going on in like the labor mines or whatever. Generally though, when it came to the Miis being here across both consoles, we saw proper steps toward what the Miis truly were. The only real instance that I think continued on was the Wii U Mii Maker and the Hub. Miis transitioned into being what I could only describe as the mascot costumes to Nintendo's Disney World. It just kind of hurts. Let's move on. 2016 to like the modern day, basically. It doesn't really matter. I feel like the Miis are sunsetting. First off, we had an app. It was called Miitomo. Nintendo has never really figured out apps. Mario Run was weird. There was the Fire Emblem one. I think that's still running. I don't know if that's good. Pokemon Go, that doesn't count. Genuinely, who is using the Pikmin app? I'm saying that as someone who likes Pikmin. Nintendo made a Mii app. It acted a lot like Miiverse. You could pay money for a Plinko machine that might give you an outfit. This is stupid. I can't believe I put money into this. I'm glad this went the way it went. The only thing I remember this app for to me is through some embarrassing photos and this one post I saw about licking Lucario's buttery paws that makes me hope to God my grandmother's not watching this video in specific. I think the Mii erasure of this period was more like a victim of Nintendo moving their models with the gaming market. Like, does anyone remember Nintendo Minute? Kate and Krista? On the Nintendo YouTube channel, they made content to promote stuff and they parted ways so all their videos would get unlisted. Why would they do that to Kit and Krista? They were innocent Miis and also real-world people that the Miis were based off of. They seem pleasant. I hope they're both doing well. I miss this point of Nintendo history. You had more sequels. Those don't matter. The new Zelda games used an advanced Mii Maker for some NPCs. That's fun. Then you had games that 5 years ago might have had Miis included. Not here. Ring Fit would have been a Mii game. It would have included Miis. Would have been a really funny Professor video, but no! It's gotta be an original character. I don't care. I don't care about Ring Fit Lady. I want to play with myself. I mean with my own Mii. We switched sports. This was an insult for us. Why would you do this? Oh, we have new little characters that are like Sportsmate. I hate this Sportsmates, dude. Nobody likes them. I can tell you why this game sucked. First off, stop trying to make Wii Sports non-launch titles. Second, these are just use the Miis. These guys in Switch Sports, they look like what I would imagine when I hear the word apricot, while Miis are more like a strawberry. You know, this feels pretentious and wrong. Just use the Mii. At least there's Miitopia. After a bunch of weirdly consistent amount of appearances, along with occasional wacky-ass moments where they take the lead, like Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games, where Miis are the ones responsible for the rescue of the missing Mario and Sonic in Brazil, which first off is an insane goddamn plot for no reason, and then secondly, if you're missing in Brazil, I hate to say it, but you're probably being trafficked just like how we saw in the real tourists in the 2011 animated film Rio. Miitopia is like all other Mii games, where the point in these Mii characters can be anyone or anything. The difference here is not only the actually incredible character maker, but also the fabled idea of a plot in a Mii game. Fancy. Starting off in Greenhorne Town, unnamed Mii that you play as is having a lovely time living their life in Greenhorne Town, where they love living there during their life that they live. Suddenly, the Dark Lord shows up and steals faces. The first major chunk of this game goes to you chasing the Dark Lord. Every time you're about to reach him, they steal your companions, basically gotta restart. This keeps happening until the Dark Lord is defeated and is revealed to be a mere simpleton possessed by a wisp known as the Dark Curse. Your guardian angel that I forgot to mention, the Great Sage, they get possessed, makes the Darker Lord, fight, defeat, guilt trip origin story for the Dark Curse. Apparently the Dark Curse used to have a face, it removed it, became a hate spirit. Player has the option to teach it the meaning of life or put it down there. It doesn't matter what you do, because in the end, the Miis aren't focused on narrative. The priority has always been to roam as a model for players to follow and indulge in these weird events that can happen in these newer games. It kind of makes you recognize how far the Miis have gone in terms of identity. The best way I can describe it comes from their logo and how they went from matching the gray text. I would say almost being Frutiger Arrow, if that's how you pronounce it. Now the text has more going on. The Miis have more going on. Even if they're meant to be an insert, said insert's becoming its own thing. That's truly worth appreciating. It's no secret that the Miis has started to slow down in appearances. Most obvious example I can think of is how they're not even in the new Mario Kart. They aren't playable in Mario Kart World. Like, that's one of their biggest titles. The Miimobile has one of its front tires popped. Hourglass is running out of sand for me. I'm really worried. I don't mean to fearmonger, but like, can you blame me? I like the Miis. I'm just worried, and for good reason. I'm just hoping we can see something new and something to keep them going. Something to keep them consistent outside of the base games of Mario Kart and Smash Bros. I don't know how long these Mii games are going to last, and the Miis are odd. By all means, I think they do what they can to make the best out of what's provided to them. I see the Miis, and they are very much like the people lots of them are based off of. They are flawed, but instead, I think they work for what they represent. I know there's not all too much plot going on here, but part of me really just wanted to talk about the Miis and Woohoo Island and this whole corner of Nintendo. I'm justifiably concerned about the future of these guys, and if the new Tomodachi Life game isn't successful, it's safer to say this might be where they fade. But let's be optimistic. I could see them making a comeback. I really just hope we don't remove this fun part of Nintendo's history into the scary back corner of franchises that nobody knows or cares for. I don't care if you like Sin and Punishment. Tommy is better than you. In conclusion, Matt should be put in more stuff. Put him in Tekken 8. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, comment. I'll do my best to respond to everyone. I have a Gamer Subs code along with the second channel. Please be sure to check either of those out. But fellas, after 15 straight hours of trying on clothes, I think I found my drip of the day. Look, it's me on a hoodie in a video about Miis. Me looking at me on a video about Miis. What an idea! Please buy my merch, I promise it's good.